Vyasam Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtike Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakam Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna, Karuna
Sindhu
Sindhu Jagat Gopesha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Tapta
Tapastapantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanu, Suti Devi,
Devi Padmani
Hari Priye, Namo Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prishnaya,
Krishnaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Devi.
Varnamani
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna
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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Krishna
We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3 Chapter 4 Text 21, where Uddhav is remembering his last meeting with the Lord and how the Lord is so kind to him. That's what we have been reading. Soham tad darshanalada yogarti yuta prabho gamishe daitam tasya badryashrama mandalam. My dear Vidur, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. Just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrikashram in the Himalayas for association as I have been instructed by him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee of the Lord, of the standard of Uddhav, constantly associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. The pure devotee is not for a moment unengaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. So the pure devotee, his full consciousness is attached, he's so attached to the Supreme Lord that his consciousness is attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. So whether he's physically with the Lord or no, whether he's seeing the Lord in front of him or he's in separation from the Lord, he's always serving the Lord. So, Sambhoga and Vipralamba. The separation is called Vipralamba Seva, and when he's in union with the Lord is called Sambhoga. Execution of the Lord's service is the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhav's separation from the Lord was unbearable, and therefore he started to Badrikashram in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. So how does a pure devotee associate with the Lord? By rendering service to the Lord. As long as one is engaged in the execution of the order of the Lord, there is no factual separation from him. So Uddhav, he was feeling separation from the Lord because Lord was not physically present with him, but he was carrying out the order. Krishna had told him, you go to Badrikashram and over there you preach. You, whatever I'm teaching you now, you go and spread this to the sages, to the associates of Narayan Rishi. And so Uddhav was finding, because he's connected with the Lord in that way, then it gives, it's soothing to his heart. So we have to see, what are we attached to? Here, the pure devotees of the Lord, they just they don't want to be separated at all from the Lord. They want to be connected to the Lord for each and every moment. Each and every moment. We have been reading how the gopis, also in Gopi Gita, how they are going mad in separation because they can't see the Lord. What is our attachment? What are we attached to? You know, we need to change our attachment to being attached to Krishna. And that is for our own benefit. And how can we get attached to Krishna? By getting attached to the pure devotees of the Lord, by following the orders of the pure devotees of the Lord. In that way, we can get attached to Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes.
Text
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. Text 22. Yatra Narayana Devo Narascha Bhagwan Rishihi Mridu Tivram Tapodirgham Tepate Loka Bhavano. There in Badrikashram, the personality of Godhead in his incarnation as the sages Nar and Narayan has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. So Nar Narayan Rishi, Nar Narayan, they are the incarnation of Krishna and Arjuna. You know, and they are there in Badrikashram, giving this knowledge of devotional service. Badrikashram in the Himalayas, the abode of the Nar Narayan sages, is a great place of pilgrimage for the Hindus. Even up to the present, hundreds and thousands of pious Hindus go to pay respects to the incarnation of Godhead, Nar Narayan. It appears that even 5,000 years ago, this holy place was being visited by such a holy being as Uddhav, and even at that time, the place was known to be very, very old. So Badrikashram, even 5,000 years ago, was known as a place of pilgrimage. So it's not like a new place. This particular pilgrimage site is very difficult to visit for ordinary
Is
men.
Badrika Ashram Badrinath in the north?
It is in the north. I'm not sure if it's the same. Badrinath, I think that is where Lord Shiva is worshipped, isn't it? In Badrinath?
No, it's
No.
Vishnu.
Oh, I'm not sure then. I'm not sure
No?
if it's the same.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the same.
Okay. Kedarnath is the one where Lord Shiva is worshipped.
Oh, okay.
And Badrinath is the Vishnu's abode.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if you can find out that is Badrika Ashram, because it is also considered a very, very holy place, Badrinath.
Okay.
So if you could let us know that it is the same Badrika Ashram or is it something different?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure. So this particular pilgrimage site is very difficult to visit for ordinary men because of its difficult situation in the Himalayas, in a place which is covered by ice almost all year. A few months during the summer season, people can visit this place at great personal inconvenience. There are 4 dhams or kingdoms of God, which represent the planets of the spiritual sky, which consists of the Brahma Jyoti and the Vaikunthas. So here, there are 4 dhams, which are representing the spiritual sky. These are Badrikashram, Rameshwar, Jagannath Puri, and Dwarka. Faithful Hindus still visit all these places for perfection of spiritual realization, following in the footsteps of devotees like Uddhav. So the reason we should go to these dhams is to associate with the pure devotees living there. And how do we associate with the pure devotees? Physical association, yes, but also we need to hear from them. What are they saying? Because by hearing, then we will get more and more attached to Krishna by their words. And Prabhupada said that the ISKCON temples, they are Vaikuntha lokas here in this material world. So just as we have an embassy, for example, in Taipei, we have the Indian embassy. So once we enter in the Indian embassy, the Indian ambassador is there, Indian laws apply, you can get the Indian visa, things about India are put. So that is like a little India in Taiwan. Similarly, the ISKCON temples, Prabhupada said, because the worship is done for Lord Krishna, everything is done for the pleasure of the Lord. The whole morning to night program is done for the pleasure of the Lord. The temples are maintained for the pleasure of the Lord. Those are Vaikunthas. It is like the embassy of Vaikuntha in this material world. So it's non-different than Vaikuntha. It is the same. Okay. So reading on, text 23. Shishuk uvacha iti uddhavat upakarnya suridam dush saham vadam jnani nashamyat shata shokam utpatitam buddha. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, after hearing from Uddhav all about the annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidura pacified his overwhelming bereavement by dint of his transcendental knowledge. And I just would like to add one more, as we just said, the embassy. So if somebody wants to go to India, they can go to this Taipei Indian embassy in Taipei and get their passport stamped, and they will get a visa. For the people who don't have visa for India, they can go there and apply the visa, and in that way they can travel to India. Similarly, Prabhupada said, each of us who's aspiring to go back to the spiritual world can come to the temples, hear from the devotees, associate from the devotees. Like that, we are getting our visa. Our visa process is an application. If we follow the rules and regulations, if we are able to please the devotees, please Srila Prabhupada, follow his orders, then we will get the visa to go back to the spiritual world. It is just as so easy as that. It's like an open invitation. So Vidur was informed that the result of the battle of Kurukshetra was the annihilation of his friends and relatives, as well as the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, and also the passing away of the Lord. All these hurled him into bereavement for the time being. But because he was highly advanced in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to pacify himself by enlightenment. So it was very difficult for Vidur to hear. We can imagine if we hear that our loved ones are no more, and in the way they have left their bodies is like by quarrel and fighting and killing each other. It is very difficult to hear. And Vidur is a pure devotee of the Lord. So he heard the passing of the Lord. So all this was very difficult. But because he has transcendental knowledge, he was able to understand what is happening. He didn't become totally in illusion. You know how sometimes we lament so much for the loss of our loved ones. Then we're going in that lamentation, and then we don't know how to function, going into that deep, deep lamentation. But here, Vidur he knows, he has knowledge, he knows what is what. He understands that the Lord needs to go back to his own abode, that he understands the Lord's activities. So he was able to pacify himself. Similarly, we are also faced with lamentation. We are also faced with lamentation. We also have experienced that our loved ones leave us. So if we can also try to get this transcendental knowledge more and more, then that helps us. It helps us. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, due to a long association with bodily relationships, bereavement on account of the annihilation of friends and relatives is not at all astonishing. But one has to learn the art of subduing such bereavement with higher transcendental knowledge. The talks between Uddhav and Vidur on the topic of Krishna began at sunset, and Vidur was now further advanced in knowledge due to his association with Uddhav. So we can see that how when two devotees meet, what are they talking about? They're talking about topics of Krishna. And in that way, they are further advancing in their knowledge. They are further advancing in their love and attachment for Krishna. So similarly, we also have to see who we are associating with. What are we associating with? And then what are we further advancing in? Is it that by our association, we are becoming more and more attached to this material body? Or are we becoming more and more attached to Krishna? That's our choice. We have to consider. Is this okay? Yes. Any comments, questions? No? Then we can read on. Text 24. Satam Mahabhagavatam Rajantam Kauravarshabha Vishrambhat Abhyadhatedam Mukhyam Krishna Parigrahe. While Uddhav, the chief and most confidential amongst the devotees of the Lord, was going away, Vidur, in affection and confidence, questioned him. Vidur was much older than Uddhav. By family relationship, Uddhav was a contemporary brother of Krishna's, while Vidur was as elderly as Krishna's father Vasudeva. But although junior by age, Uddhav was much advanced in the devotional service of the Lord, and therefore he is described herein as the chief amongst the devotees of the Lord. Vidur was confident about this, and thus he addressed Uddhav in that higher category. That is the way of courteous dealings between two devotees. So we can see here that Vidur, he's a devotee, and so he does not have that ego that, oh, Uddhav is younger than me, so why should I hear from him? So if we keep that ego, or somebody is younger than me, why should I hear something from them? Then we are closing ourselves to hearing about this transcendental knowledge. Because age is not a criteria for spiritual knowledge. We saw that how Sukadev Goswami, he's just barely a young boy of 16 years old. And over there at Naimisharanya came personalities from all over the universe. All over the universe. And such great, great personalities, such great learned men. Narad was there, Vyasadev was there, and so many other qualified. And yet they asked Sukadev Goswami to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam, because they knew that he was very qualified to hear, to speak the Bhagavatam, and they knew he was more qualified than them, and so they heard from him. Similarly, we should also have that humility, that if somebody is speaking about pure devotional service, even though they are younger, we should have that humility to hear from them. So reading on, text 25. Vidur uvacha jnanam param swatma raha prakasham yad aha yogeshwara ishwaraste vaktum bhavano arhati yadhi vishnu pritya swabhratyartha kritas charanti. Vidur said, O Uddhav, because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord himself. The servants of the Lord are actually the servants of society. They have no interest in human society other than to enlighten it in transcendental knowledge. They are interested in imparting knowledge of the relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord, the activities in that transcendental relationship, and the ultimate goal of human life. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they don't want anything from human society. They don't need anything. They're so full of bliss already in their heart because they are with Krishna. Their consciousness is totally with Krishna. So if we are with Krishna, who is the owner of everyone, everything, who's the reservoir of all pleasure, what more do we need? We don't need anything. But these pure devotees of the Lord, why do they keep coming to us? Why? Not for their benefit. What can we give them? And they don't even want anything from us. But they keep coming to give us the transcendental knowledge of who we are. Who are we and what's our relationship with the Supreme Lord? Then once the relationship is set, what are the activities in that relationship? We can see if so, we have so many relationships with parents, with spouse, with children, with bosses, with teachers, with friends, and in each relationship we have some activity. Similarly, our relationship with the Supreme Lord, we have activities. Otherwise, what is the meaning of that relationship? And what is the ultimate goal of life? They're teaching us the ultimate goal of life is to love God. Prema Pumartho Mahan. That is the ultimate goal of life, to love God. That is the real knowledge which can help society achieve the real aim of human welfare. We spend so much time in gaining knowledge. We want to hear the news. Now the news, of course, sometimes is on TV, sometimes on internet. Sometimes we want to hear from each other. What happened? Tell me what happened, what this one did, what that one did. So we are trying to gain knowledge. But what is all that knowledge going to help us with? What? Is it going to help us to keep us here more and more in this material world? Or is it going to help us to be actually situated to understand who we truly are? And how can we help others with that knowledge? Are we helping others by gaining such knowledge? So what is the real knowledge? Is the ones that the pure devotees are giving us. And with that knowledge, we can actually help the full society. If each individual, we at our individual level, try to follow the teachings of the devotees, try to follow the instructions of the devotees, we can change the face of the entire society and achieve the highest welfare of human life. So knowledge in the matter of the bodily necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing transformed into various branches of advancement of knowledge is all temporary. So we can see all the knowledge that we are trying to gain, all the knowledge is how I can eat better, what I can eat better, how I can sleep better, how I can mate better, and how I can defend better. And that is what we call progress of human life. But is that really progress? Or is it just becoming a better way of doing these eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, but we are forgetting who we truly are. We are forgetting the soul. And all this progress that we are seeing in modern civilization is temporary. When we leave this world, it will be finished. Finished. It's not that, but we are living in the world. It's not that we have to give it all up and go and live in the forest. No, we can't. We can't. We are in the body. We just have to understand that I'm not the body, but I'm in the body. So whatever comforts I'm getting is for the body, but I shouldn't stop myself to that. I need to still go further, understand about the soul and the activities of the soul, and be engaged in the activities of the soul. And that is hearing and chanting. Hearing and chanting. We have so much energy to fulfill our material desires, how I can eat better, sleep better. But when it comes to chanting, we say, oh, I'm too lazy. I was not able to finish my rounds today. 16 rounds, 2 hours, who's going to do it? So troublesome. But we can spend hours and hours for our material body. So a living being is not the material body, but an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Being. And thus, revival of his self-knowledge is essential. We are thinking we are the body, but we are not. We are part of Krishna. Can you imagine if we know if we are related to the president of a country, then we would like to be in that relationship, isn't it? Here, the Supreme Lord is saying, hey, each of you has an eternal relationship with me. You're part and parcel of me. And yet, we don't want to take it up with sincerity. The servants of the Lord Vishnu are entrusted. Without this knowledge, the human life is baffled. The servants of the Lord Vishnu are entrusted with this responsible work, and so they wander over the earth and to all other planets in the universe. Thus, the knowledge which was received by Uddhav directly from the Lord deserves to be distributed in human society, especially to persons like Vidur, who are highly advanced in the devotional service of the Lord. So Krishna, he tells his servants, please go and tell each and every one about their own eternal relationship, because Krishna does not want us to continue suffering here in the material world. He wants us to come back so we can have an eternal life full of bliss and full of knowledge in the spiritual world. And so the devotees of the Lord, they are kind and compassionate, and at great personal endeavor, they are fulfilling the order of Krishna. They're fulfilling the desire of Krishna. That yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Real transcendental knowledge descends in the disciplic succession from the Lord to Uddhav, from Uddhav to Vidur, and so on. So this is real transcendental knowledge, that it has to begin from Krishna because it is transcendental. We material human beings cannot understand Krishna unless he speaks to us about him. So he spoke the knowledge to Uddhav, then to Vidur. So that's another chain, Then Vidur is speaking to others. So this is how the transcendental knowledge is distributed. Such supreme transcendental knowledge is not possible to achieve by the process of imperfect speculation as performed by the so-called learned, mundane wranglers. Vidur was anxious to know from Uddhav that confidential knowledge known as Paramam Sthitim, in which the Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. So Uddhav knew about Krishna. So Vidur is asking Uddhav, if I want to know about a particular subject, I need to go to an expert in that subject. I cannot just say, no, because my mother is very kind to me and so loving to me. She should know everything and I will follow whatever she says. But maybe she doesn't know something about that subject. Then I have to go to the expert. Although Vidur was older than Uddhav, he was anxious to become a servant of Uddhav in the transcendental relationship. This formula of transcendental disciplic succession is taught by Lord Caitanya also. Lord Caitanya advises that one receive transcendental knowledge from anyone, whether a Brahmana or a Shudra, a householder or a sannyasi, provided that the person is factually conversant with the signs of Krishna. A person who knows the signs of Krishna is factually a bona fide spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya says that we should receive this spiritual knowledge from a person. It doesn't matter if that person is a sannyasi or no, or he's a grihastha or no, he's a brahmachari, or he's a shudra. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, provided he knows the signs of Krishna, factually, not made up, not imagination, but he knows the signs of Krishna as a fact. And that is a true guru, because he can connect us to Krishna, he can take us to Krishna, he can show us Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes.
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 So we can stop here for today. Any questions or comments or anything to add, subtract? No? Then we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shilpa Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanand ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening in.